Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Candy Day, Tone. What's your favorite candy?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. I don't eat much, just a couple of thousand M&Ms here and there every single day. But the plain, not the peanut. Don't like the peanut. Like the peanut butter ones. Don't like the peanut ones. You like M&Ms,
Yeah.
Mike?
I'm not supposed to be eating any candy, Tony, but candy corn, especially around Halloween, Halloween time. I have been able to sneak some candy corn.
Candy corn is hideous. Welcome to PTI, kids. In today's episode, Odell Beckham is excused from another practice. The Jets meet the Colts in a big Thursday night tilt, and the Sabres trade Jack Eichel. But we begin today with the continuing fallout from Aaron Rodgers. The Packers will play the Chiefs on Sunday in what now looks like the most interesting game on the board. Jordan Love will get his first start, and Patrick Mahomes will attempt to reverse the downward spiral of his season. Wilbon, is Sunday's game a bigger deal for Love or for Mahomes?
Love. Whatever Mahomes does. If Mahomes goes out there and goes 3 for 27, people will make excuses for him. People will point, as they should, to his history, his body of work, his resume. And they'll get over that. They'll spend Monday and Tuesday saying, oh, my God, what's happened to Patrick Mahomes? And they'll get to the next game. But Jordan Love, Tony, he's been sitting there while Aaron Rodgers, conducts this, this play, if you will, of whether he's going to play for the Packers, whether he's not, whether he's hurt because Jordan Love was drafted, whether he wasn't. No, this is Jordan Love's time. This is his audition. And it's sad that it's just going to be, it looks like one start, looks like from where we sit now. But this is his big chance, and he can't presume he's going to have a string of them. This is bigger for Jordan Love.
No, I think that no matter what Jordan Love does tonight, when Aaron Rodgers gets back, Jordan Love is going to sit on the bench. Now, if he has a great game tonight, that will convince the GM who drafted him that he can let Aaron Rodgers slide. Sunday, that he can let Aaron Rodgers slide at the end of the season. Because if you open up on the road at Arrowhead, one of the loudest places in the world, against a team that's been to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and you blow him out, that's a huge debut. Now, if he stinks, if he's really bad, it might be some sort of crushing defeat because it's going to get more attention than it ever normally would. I was inclined, you can convince me, I was inclined to think it was Mahomes for this reason. In the near term, Mahomes' aura of invincibility could go away. If he loses at home to a guy who's never played before, but I'll go your way. I won't argue this thing. I just want to get to Aaron Rodgers for a second. That's deliberate obfuscation on Aaron Rodgers' part to use the word that he used, immunized. I mean, he's trying to be too cute. If you're immunized, Mike, if you're immunized, by definition, you don't get COVID. Okay? If you're vaccinated, you can. If you're immunized, you can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Good distinction. You English majors, you're always just, picking at words, Let's move to hockey, Tony. Jack Eichel, the biggest star and best player on the Buffalo Sabres, is no longer with the Sabres. They traded Eichel to Las Vegas this morning because of a medical disagreement. The Sabres wanted Eichel to get spinal fusion surgery for the herniated disc in his neck. Eichel wants to get disc replacement. Eichel hasn't played since last March, and he faces months of rehab after the operation. Eichel said today he will soon get the replacement surgery he wants. Tom, what are your thoughts on this saga, and how is it apparently going to end?
So I learned today something that I found unbelievable, that the NHL players have collectively bargained away their ability to get their own medical treatment. In the contract, it says the team has the ultimate authority to tell you what kind of treatment you're going to get. If I were a hockey player, I don't think I would ever have done that.
You think baseball would ever sign away to that?
I don't think anybody would. So I don't know. Buffalo held its ground. So maybe on some level in Buffalo, they feel it's a victory. But if it's a victory, Mike, it's a Pyrrhic victory because he's their best player and he's gone.
Yeah.
Vegas could be getting a steal here, but, and there's always a but, it depends on whether the surgery works. If the surgery doesn't work on a 25-year-old athlete and he doesn't have the 10 to 12-year career that you think he's going to have, you take the risk in your own hands.
Yeah, but I mean, look, Tony, as we know, surgery is a risk. No matter which one of these surgical procedures, maybe we're not doctors, one is greater than the other. But it was interesting to hear Eichel talk on The Point today about this and about this quote-unquote victory. And he had gone to get a second opinion. And apparently in the NHL, you can get a second opinion, but you just better ultimately roll around to their point of view and their opinion. And like you, I'm surprised that in this day and age, any sort of players association would sign off on that sort of deal. But Vegas, Tony, they take big swings. They do. And if Buffalo loses, if Eichel becomes a great player again, but it happens in Las Vegas, you're going to go, wow, why didn't they just let him have the replacement surgery that he wanted and thought he had support for from his physician?
Right. All I can tell you this, Mike, is that I got a herniated disc in my back and it radiates pain down my leg. And every doctor I ever went to said the same thing. Don't get surgery. Even surgeons said there's no such thing as one back surgery. So I didn't. We move now to an ESPN article detailing various behaviors of Phoenix Suns owner Robert Sarver over a long period of time that the author Baxter Holmes describes as racist, misogynistic, and creating a toxic workplace. These behaviors include Sarver using the N-word and talking openly in mixed company about sex acts. Sarver denies these characterizations. Wilbon, what questions does this story raise in your mind about Sarver, the Suns organization, and the potential reaction from the NBA to it?
Well, Tony, I'm going to skip right to the NBA's investigation, and there will be an investigation. We already know that from various news reports, and I know that from conversations I had today. It's that investigation which is going to determine whether or not this behavior described in the piece is seen to rise to the level of other owners which have been disgraced owners. I'm thinking first of the one in Los Angeles, formerly with the Clippers, and we've got others in Carolina. We've got them in yes, Donald Sterling, yes, first and foremost. Yeah. And Tony, I've talked to people today, former players, who have said this investigation they believe will reveal serious enough support for what's reported that Sarver's going to be in seriously hot water. I've also talked to people who said, wait a minute, while his behavior may be bullying at times and objectionable, they don't know that it's going to rise to this level. I'm going to read you something that I think has sort of resonated with me, Tony, about Sarver, as someone who spends a lot of time in Phoenix. A lot of stuff he says, quote, is to get a big reaction. And who is going to tell him he can't? He speaks in threats. He likes that awkwardness. He likes people to know that he's in charge. He wants control. He wants control of every situation and every person. That might be objectionable, but that alone, while it rings true to me, may not be enough to act on him. So there's so much to be determined. The investigation has to help determine it largely.
Yeah, so I read the piece. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. My reaction from the piece was that he's not a guy that I would like to work for. That he's a guy who says essentially, hey, I own this team. I own you. You'll do what I want. Like he's, there's just a lot of bravado there and there's a lot of threats. Nor did I think that the NBA would be worse off if he was no longer an owner. But much like you, I'm not sure if it rises to the level where you automatically, if you're Adam Silver, say, we got to get rid of this guy. There are, I've read a lot of pieces about toxic workplaces in the Washington Post about the Washington football team. That's usually sex-based. A lot of it was race-based. You don't really know what's going on here, so you always have questions. You live there. What does the general population in Phoenix think about this? What do the players on the Suns think about this? I would like to hear from two guys I think are stand-up guys. I think Chris Paul and Monty Williams are stand-up guys, and they're there now. And I would like to hear from them. And then obviously I want to see the investigation. Sure.
Well, Tony, real quickly, so much of this reportedly took place early, in Sarver's tenure, 2004 or 5 to 2010. The guys there now weren't on the team there. But, Tony, you said something critical. The not just the opinion, but the observations of players, actual players on the Suns and in contact. That will matter in this investigation. But it's the investigation that's going to have to determine this.
Let's take a break. But coming up, what responsibility does the Packers front office have for the Aaron Rodgers situation? We're going to ask Louis Riddick.
We'll also ask him why the Browns can't patch things up between Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield. Just put him in a commercial. Put him in an insurance ad. Everything will be fine.
Pardon the interruption is presented.
Off tonight, which makes it a perfect time for a visit from our friend ESPN Monday Night Football analyst Louis Riddick. Louis, you got to start today with Aaron Rodgers being out because of COVID and being unvaccinated. You were in a front office for years, multiple front offices. What do you read into the way the Green Bay front office has handled Rodgers and all of this stuff between them since his holdout? What do you think is the nature of their relationship?
Yeah, you wonder just what are they allowing Aaron Rodgers to get away with, and what are they holding him accountable for? And that's not to go ahead and automatically, criticize the Green Bay Packer front office and say that they weren't following the protocols and procedures to the letter and to the T as the NFL has laid out. But you just wonder whether or not there were certain things that maybe he was allowed to do within the confines of the Packers building that they wouldn't allow other players to do. Now, we're going to find out whether or not he was given any kind of leeway or allowed to do certain things once the NFL conducts their investigation. But you would assume that Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, and Mark Murphy, the team president, were making sure that he was not putting anyone else in harm's way given his vaccination status, and they were not giving him any special treatment within that building, because all that would do was serve as to put the rest of the football team at risk and put their season at risk in the event that he wasn't able to play like he isn't right now. So I guess I'm very interested to see how this all plays out for them as far as the investigation is concerned, and whether or not anything else comes out as far as their relationship and if it was affected going forward.
We'll stay with discord between a star player and management, but move to Cleveland and look at the Browns excusing Odell Beckham Jr. for practice for a second consecutive day, Lewis. I said yesterday the management is abdicating its responsibility to sit everyone down and solve this thing. Am I going too far in that direction?
Yeah, Mike, I really do believe that this is a situation that I think it's too late to sit down and solve things in terms of Odell Beckham still being a member of this football team. I think there's been plenty of time for them to have the kind of relationship come out of this that would be productive. And I think it's just right now it's at a point where, addition by subtraction is ultimately what's going to be what's best here for both parties. And I think Odell Beckham will be better off for it to go somewhere else and start fresh. And I know people would say, well, this is his third time starting fresh. Well, hey, sometimes it happens that way. And it's especially happened that way with great wide receivers in this league that have moved around from team to team and still wound up finding better situations for themselves, as the longer they went in their career. And for the Browns, think about it last year. They almost made it to the Super Bowl. They were a step away from going to the AFC Championship game without Odell Beckham Jr. And quite honestly, the offense played better. Baker Mayfield was playing in a more organic fashion, a more natural fashion. And they weren't having to answer any questions about whether or not you had a great relationship with the so-called quote-unquote number one wide receiver and whether or not he was getting enough targets and whether or not he was happy. So I think for both parties, this could wind up benefiting them in the long run. And I really do think management needs to figure out a way, or rather a time frame, as to when it's best to go ahead and cut the cord and let him move on so they can get on with the business at hand, which is to get to the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. That's what their stated goal was before this season started, and I think this would help them get towards that.
I will get you out of here on this. Wilbon believes that the quality of head coaching in the NFL has drastically declined in the last couple of decades. Is he right, or is he just an old man screaming, "Get off my lawn"?
No, you know what, Tony? I've thought about this and talked about this both privately and publicly for quite a while, that I do believe that, the qualities that are required to be a great head coach and a great leader, I just don't know if everyone exhibits them at a high enough level to where you can have sustained success. And look, and I think it starts with three things, and I've said this over and over again. It starts with credibility, and then competency, and then your ability to positively impact others. Are you credible? Can you be trusted? Can you be trusted that what you say is the way it's going to be, and that behind closed doors, and even when people aren't looking, these are the things that you stand for and who you are? Are you competent in terms of your ability to really make players better in terms of setting up a program, as far as how you select players, setting up a program as far as how you develop players, and then implement them on the football field? And then can you have positive impact on people, not just on the football field, but outside the building in terms of their everyday life? And I just don't know if there's enough of those guys who can do all three things at a high level on a consistent basis. The ones who are, they're the ones who stick around the longest. We're going to see one of the best ones that fit all three of those criteria on Monday night when the Steelers play against the Chicago Bears and Mike Tomlin, who I absolutely have total and complete respect for his ability to be credible, competent, and positively impact others. We need to make sure that we're hitting on all three of those when you're selecting head coaches. Otherwise, the way that this whole thing just continues to be a revolving door is here to stay.
You made Wilbon very happy. Very happy.
Very.
Thank you for joining us, Lewis. Thank you so much.
Lewis, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Let's take one last break, but still to come, Buster Posey calls it a career. Is he a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame?
And LeBron is going to miss tonight's game? If so, cause for concern, Tony? See, Lewis can answer that with a lot greater football intelligence than I can. Mine was a rant. He gave us insight.
Yeah.
Tonight on SportsCenter at 6 Eastern. Today's breaking news surrounding allegations of a toxic and hostile work environment.
21st birthday Dick Groat. History lesson, kids. Groat was an All-American basketball player at Duke who was the 3rd overall pick by the Pistons in the 1952 draft when the Pistons played in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Groat played 26 games in the NBA, then moved over to his best sport, baseball, where he was so good at shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates that he was voted National League MVP in 1960. Groat played 14 Major League seasons, batted .286, was an 8-time All-Star and won 2 World Series, 1960 with the Pirates, 1964 with the Cardinals. To add a 3rd sport to this story, Groat is the great-uncle of golfer Brooks Koepka.
Tony, there were so many instances of this, as you know, for the first, 80 years of the previous century, where guys like Sonny Jurgensen wound up going to the Hall of Fame in one sport, football, but thought he was better at basketball even until he was in college, because guys played multiple sports. That's what people did. Great athletes all did that.
Happy anniversary, Adrian Peterson, on this day 14 years ago. As a rookie playing in his 8th NFL game, Peterson rushed for an NFL record 296 yards on 30 carries as the Vikings beat the Chargers. That's almost 10 yards a carry, and 3 of them were cut short by the end zone. Peterson now stands 5th all-time in rushing with 14,820 yards. He needs 449 more to catch Barry Sanders for 4th, and it's possible he'll get them. Peterson has been signed by the Tennessee Titans, who just lost Derrick Henry, probably for the season. Peterson's initials are AP, but his nickname is AD for all day.
Tony, suppose Peterson had played 20 years earlier at a time when running backs were, like starting pitchers, actually valued by their sport and their coach/manager. How many yards would he be won? Would he have passed everybody if Adrian Peterson had played in the 1980s? Probably.
Happy trails, Buster Posey, the Giants' stalwart catcher and Rookie of the Year in 2010 and MVP in 2012, is retiring at age 34. Posey played his entire 12-year career in San Francisco. He's the only player to have been on the Giants' 3 World Series champions in 2010, 12, and 14. Last month, the Giants said they would pick up Posey's option for 2022 and pay him $22 million, but Posey has decided to be a full-time dad instead. Posey will likely go to the Hall of Fame. He's a lifetime 302 hitter at a position where 300 is rare. Since 1947, when Ernie Lombardi retired, the only other Hall of Fame catcher with a lifetime 300 average is Mike Piazza, not Bench, Berra, Campanella, or Fisk.
That last sentence alone, Tony, is why Posey is a gots to go to the Hall of Fame. When you are just among those names, Hall of Fame, when you are the exception to the group yourself, first ballot, go.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, he had a lot of injuries in his career. The famous play at the plate kept him out almost the whole year. Let's go to the big finish. LeBron is out at least a week with an ab strain. Is that significant?
Tony, the accumulation of these injuries, even on someone as indestructible as LeBron had been, yes, significant. Akron fired head coach Tom Arth. Is that deserved?
So that's what Maction is, huh? He's 3-24 overall. That is very difficult to defend. It is. Nick Castellanos of the Reds opted out of his last 2 years worth $34 million. He's now a free agent. Do you like him, Mr. Cub?
Looked pretty comfy in that Cub uniform in Wrigley Field to me for that little sliver of time he was there. Leon Draisaitl has 20 points. Connor McDavid 19 through 9 games. You impressed with those guys?
Okay, so they're 1-2 in scoring. The Oilers are 8-1. Doesn't that feel a little bit like Gretzky and Messier? Just a little bit. Last one, Thursday Night Football. Mike White and the Jets at the Colts. Who you got?
Tony, the Colts can make a real move here. I got the Colts. But you know if the Jets win, oh, you people on I-95, you're going to be insufferable.
You bet. You bet. We already are insufferable, according to you. We're out of time. Try and be better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
At least that's the team of your youth. I'll let you slide with it. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the Apple Podcast. And now here's SportsCenter.
So Mike and I want to wish our best wishes to our friend Marty Aronoff, the greatest